ladies and gentlemen, now joining the program, the great Mike Davis. So it is reported that John F. Kennedy once said we should scatter the intelligence agencies to the winds after shattering them into 1,000 pieces, Mike. John Kennedy himself found a bullet through his skull not long after. Do you agree that the FBI should be scattered to the winds into 1,000 pieces?
Yes, the top ranks of the FBI are corrupted to their core. We saw that the FBI in 2016 tried to throw the presidential election to Hillary Clinton. The FBI buried evidence of Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's illegal home server that was hacked by our enemies. They buried evidence of the Clinton Foundation's pay-for-play scheme, where they sold access to Hillary Clinton when she was the Secretary of State in exchange for donations to the Clinton Foundation that provided for the Clintons' lavish lifestyle. They buried this while they colluded with Hillary's while the FBI colluded with Hillary's campaign, President Obama, Vice President Biden, the Justice Department, the Attorney General, the CIA Director, and others to cook up and unleash this bogus Russian collusion crossfire hurricane investigation. And what they essentially alleged that Trump was doing is he was committing treason, is what they were alleging, that with his dealings with Russia, it was completely made up to distract from Hillary Clinton's own political and legal troubles. And the bad actors were fired FBI Director James Comey, fired FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, fired FBI Senior Intelligence Official Peter Strzok, but there were many, many others at the FBI, still in the FBI, who were involved with this. Remember, President Trump declassified these Crossfire Hurricane records the day before he left office, but the Biden Justice Department dragged their feet and never made them public. And I've said this for months. This is the reason why Biden ordered this unprecedented, unnecessary, and unlawful home raid on the office of the former president in Mar-a-Lago to get back these damning Crossfire Hurricane records that John Durham is now reporting in his detailed report.
What did you make of the report? What are your major takeaways?
I mean, the major takeaways are this is bombshell. You can't get worse than this, where you have political parties colluding with our justice system and our intel system, with our president, with our vice president, with his top intelligence aides, his top law enforcement aides, to weaponize our federal government, to weaponize law enforcement to go after a political enemy. You can't get worse than this. And the FBI, here's the problem is that John Durham said that the FBI and the Justice Department cooperated with his probe. Why did he not present evidence of crimes before the statute of limitations ran out? Why did it take so long to report this? That's a question that the House Judiciary Committee needs to ask John Durham when he comes in for oversight. And maybe there's a good reason for it, but it seems like this took a long time to get there. It's a very comprehensive, detailed report, but they're recommending no charges. How do you not recommend charges here when you have a weaponized justice system, a weaponized law enforcement intel operation trying to take out a presidential candidate? And they didn't just do it once. They didn't just do it in 2016. They did it again in 2020 when they buried suspicious activity reports and other evidence that the Bidens were corruptly taking bribes from foreign governments. There is whistleblower evidence that came to my former boss, Chuck Grassley's office, a whistleblower from the FBI, who said that there is clear evidence that Vice President Biden took a foreign bribe and it changed American policy. And the FBI buried this. Why? Why did Comey bury this? And the bigger question is when Bill Barr took over as the Attorney General, when Chris Wray took over as the FBI Director, what did they know and when did they know it? Why did they not discover this and do something about it? And if they did discover it, why did they continue to cover this up?
I mean, it's hard to not be black-pilled after reading this report because it looks like a lot of bad parenting that I see. So you see a lot of bad parenting. As a parent myself, it's you take the child, you take the little kid, the snot-nosed kid screaming and throwing a tantrum. You tell that kid, you warn that kid, you talk through all the bad things it's done, and then you warn that kid they're going to get a spanking like 50 times, and then you never spank them. You never actually spank the kid. You never actually deliver a consequence where the child will know that it's done wrong. And so this seems like bad parenting to me. It's Mother's Day last weekend. I'm thinking about parenting. It's a good allegory. Dude, it's just like, here's all the bad things you did, and now there's no consequences. And that's going to make for a rotten child.
Yeah, I mean, what needs to happen, Ben, is we need to gut the FBI. We need to gut the CIA. We need to start over with these law enforcement and intel agencies. They have been corrupted, and it's not just at the top level. It's all the way down to the field offices. It's these counterintelligence operations. This same counterintelligence division at the Justice Department and the National Security Division, and the same counterintelligence component of the FBI that cooked up this crossfire hurricane hoax to take out Trump is the same. These are the same units that did the Mar-a-Lago raid to go get back these crossfire hurricane records that Trump declassified and took when he left office. And the Biden Justice Department, the Biden administration never made them public, and they were so damning, as we just saw with Durham's report, that they continued to do their treacherous acts, and they did a home raid on a former president for records that President Trump was absolutely allowed to have under the Presidential Records Act. They didn't even cite the Presidential Records Act when they went to their biased magistrate judge, Bruce Reinhart, and got this unprecedented, unnecessary, and unlawful home raid. This magistrate judge had just recused 6 weeks prior from Hillary Clinton's lawsuit with Donald Trump because he had a clear judicial bias. He had posted social media posts bashing Trump, but somehow this judicial bias magically went away 6 weeks later when Garland went down and asked for this home raid. And they didn't even cite the Presidential Records Act. They cited an applicable law because they were just trying to get back these crossfire hurricane records that are so damning. And we're seeing this now. The President of the United States, President Obama, Vice President Biden, Obama's Attorney General, Obama's CI Director, and other White House and other senior Obama officials colluded with Hillary Clinton's campaign to make up the Russian collusion hoax against President Trump. They did a crossfire hurricane investigation where they weaponized our FBI and Justice Department. They presented false evidence to a FISA court to get a warrant. This is the worst of worst things you can think of in a so-called democracy. Democrats always scream about democracy and norms. This is the most destructive thing you can do in a democracy.
Yeah. Do you think that Donald Trump, final question here is, sort of living in the past, but do you think the biggest mistake, and you're a Trump fan, I'm a Trump fan, but the biggest mistake was not firing everyone on day one? Like holding hands with Comey at the White House. Like thinking that maybe through celebrity or the power of his political movement, that these people would come to terms and would then suddenly start working for him.
I think that Donald Trump's biggest problem at the Justice Department was the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, the number two. I call him Hot Rod. He is the lawyer for the deep state. He pretends like he's Team Republican. He pretends like he's Team R. I just saw him at a Republican National Lawyers event last week, pretending like he's Team R. He is the guy who was in charge of all this. Remember, Jeff Sessions, as the Attorney General, got forced to recuse from these matters, stupidly got forced to recuse from these matters. Hot Rod, the Deputy Attorney General, took over these matters. He's the one who managed the Mueller probe. Hot Rod is the one who managed the FBI. This all lands on Hot Rod's desk, and they need to call him in and ask him what he knew and when he knew it.
Yeah. just don't know how you continue a country with any legitimacy with these kind of agencies that act essentially as a super state outside of the democratic bounds and outside of democratic reach. Mike Davis, where can people find your exceptional work?
I appreciate that, Ben. People can go to article3project.org, article number 3project.org. You can donate if you want. We're mean and lean, and we'd love to have the money. It's at article 3 project, at article number 3 project on Getter, Twitter, Truth, and my personal is at MRDDMIA, MRDDMIA. And thank you, Ben.
God bless you, Mike.